welcome to 1991 Movie Rewind, a podcast where we watch and review every movie released in 1991, from the all-time greatest classics to the critically panned and everything in between. We will rediscover forgotten fan favorites and uncover hidden gems as we explore the depths of direct-to-video. Join us in our celebration of the fun, unique, and diverse films of this highly underrated year. This week, we watched Wildflower. Wildflower takes place in a small southern town in the 1940s. A young teenager named Ellie, played by Reese Witherspoon, is out riding her horse when she hears screams. Her investigation of the neighboring farm leads her to find a young woman named Alice, played by Patricia Arquette, who is hard of hearing and epileptic. She has been hidden away from society and forced to live in a shed. Ellie enlists the help of her brother to do what she can to help Alice. Screenplay by Sara Flanigan, directed by Diane Keaton, and premiered on Lifetime on December 3rd, 1991. Have you seen this movie before?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shocker. I didn't know that.
I didn't know it until maybe 20 minutes in. I was like, oh, I've seen this. So when we pick our movies, all I do is a quick look on IMDb. And I don't want to read because I don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah.
So all I saw was the box cover, and I saw Patricia Arquette and Reese Witherspoon on it, and I was like, I feel like I've seen this. And then when we were watching it, I was like, oh, I saw this.
I have not. It's really interesting that this movie, over others, has had a life beyond its cable TV premiere. It did have a VHS release. It did have a DVD release.
I saw this in high school at a friend's house. She had the VHS. But I think it was because of the book. I think she read the book.
Your friend read the book and
I think.
Bought the VHS?
I think.
Yeah. So yeah, it is based off of a book, also by Sara Flanigan, who wrote the screenplay. The book is just called Alice. I don't know when that was released, but I don't know if you looked that up or not.
I thought this movie was called Alice.
Oh, and that's where your confusion came in?
Yeah, that's why I never heard of Wildflower before. And I don't know if it was released as Alice.
I don't
ever
think so. We don't have the TV guide for this week, so
right.
We weren't able to check.
Or maybe if it was on... I don't know if they released it as Alice, on a VHS later on. The book was written in 1988.
Okay. Yeah, the only note I have about Sara Flanigan's writing is that she started writing in her mid-50s. So it took a while for her to actually start publishing stuff, but she did do some other stuff as well, something like Sooty and Simpson, Other Voices, Other Rooms, Dare to Love, and Sophie and the Moonhanger were all adapted into movies, or those are all other movies that she worked on. But this was her first major thing, as far as I can tell. It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
I think more so than other TV movies that we're going to see or have seen in the past even, that this felt cohesive. It felt like it really could have been released theatrically.
Yeah, and I wonder if it was because of Diane Keaton doing it. You mean that... directing it? That it works so well? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she just did a good job.
It could be.
This movie also reminded me of... That's why I was getting a little confused when I was watching it. Because I was getting this movie confused with the other 1991 movie we're going to see with Reese Witherspoon at some point. Was,
The Man in the Moon.
The Man in the Moon. because I feel like that story is a little bit similar.
Okay.
Because I remember seeing that movie when I was young, but I do remember a young, Reese Witherspoon. She's kind of, she plays like the same type of character, like a tomboy
from like 50 years ago.
Yeah. She happens upon like someone who's been outcasted, and she becomes the friend of this outcasted person.
Okay. Yeah, I have not seen that movie either.
And plus it's like, in some small town in the South. So I was confused between the two. But yeah, as we were going along with this, I was like, I definitely remember this movie now.
So, I mean, I don't know if you liked it back then or if those feelings have changed since, but
I think it was just the same. Like, it kept me interested because I was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? And it also kind of gave me anxiety. I don't know. Mainly because of how they treated this girl, and then I was wondering, was this based off of a real story? But it doesn't seem like it was.
No, probably not. I mean, there may have been similar stories that happened, but, yeah, I agree with you in terms of the anxiety. Mostly when Alice is just sort of out and about with Ellie and Sammy, the brother, played by William McNamara. I don't know. When you know that the parents are keeping her locked away in the shed, and now she's like just wandering the town, doing whatever, there's always that thought in the back of my mind thinking, okay, the parents are going to run into her somehow, or, something is going to happen. She's going to go back to the shed when they're trying to put her away and they're going to get caught. That's the type of anxiety that I was feeling while watching it, because how abusive the father is very early on.
Yeah.
And so, that's the anxiety. Is like, why are you doing these things? Or like when they're trying to bathe her or put a dress on her, it's like the parents are going to know that she was out of her shed at this point.
Yeah, that's...
So like, why are you doing this?
And she's starting to like learn to talk and do more things independently, I guess. And I mean, even her mom said, oh, no wonder she's been like more vocal or whatever. There was like one part where she was like, oh, no wonder she... So it's like they have to have let her out. They don't... I feel like... See, I never read the book, but I just read that the book is a little bit more like graphic.
Okay. And
they sort of imply that she's been like sexually abused. Like,
sure. They
kind of apply that the stepfather is just doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, maybe because they live on a farm, it looks like they have cows and chickens, and that's how they get their money, is by going to some farmer's market or whatever to sell the eggs and milk or whatever the hell they get from this farm. And I feel like maybe they let her out during that time to maybe help with farming, or do they just keep her in that shed all day long?
I mean, I don't...
And
I'm assuming that she does probably have to work to some degree, but I mean, when they leave for town, they always put her back in the pen.
Yeah, because they don't want her to be out in this town and they live in.
Yeah, and they don't want anybody to see her.
Yeah,
they don't want
she's
anyone
kept
to know
secretly
that she exists.
too, because when the doctor comes to see her, he's like, I've delivered all the babies in this little town, and I've never heard of a deaf child or someone with her issues. So it makes it seem like, but
that's weird too, isn't it? Because they didn't know that she was going to be born deaf and epileptic.
Yeah. So but
there must have been some other secret that doesn't explain. Because
also later in the movie, the mom was like, her father died when she was young, Alice's father.
Yeah.
And they came from another town, it sounds like, because That's what it sounded like. And they're not from there, and it seems like the mother married her husband. I don't even
Ormond.
say that. Oh, Ormond.
Yeah.
Like the mother married Ormond because that was like the only man that was able to take in her and her child.
Okay.
And
so,
I guess
missed that part of
so he's from that town, and they just came from another town later on. They don't say like how old Alice was at that point.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes more sense then. I think I missed the part that she was born out of town.
They don't really say it, but the mom says, Ormond was the only man to take in me and my child. Like,
yeah, and he was nice at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, basically nobody in the town knows about this girl, Alice, and I don't know if she's supposed to be a late teenager or like college age. I know that Patricia Arquette was in her early 20s when she played this role. And the brother, Sammy, is about to go to college, or he wants to go to college. That's one of the B plots of this movie, is that he wants to escape and get an education because no one else has in his family. Like his dad, Jack, doesn't even read. And so he wants to make something of himself, but yet the dad won't let him go to school, doesn't want him to go to college. No son of his is going to take a handout, even if he gets a scholarship. He's basically saying, no, you can't go even with the scholarship.
Yeah, you got to be a hard worker, and at that time, being a hard worker is like physically doing like manual labor.
Yeah, and I think it's also that their mother is dead.
Yeah, so, and he has to be the man of the house.
Yeah. And Jack is also not pulling his weight. Jack, the father, is not pulling his weight because he's still...
like a drunk.
Perpetually mourning and drunk.
Yeah.
And so he can't really do anything himself around the house, and so he's really reliant on Sammy to do it, but Sammy wants to go out and make something of himself. But all that to say that Sammy is basically a senior in high school, so he's, 18-ish years old when this story is taking place, and they, make it seem like they're supposed to be about the same age, him and Alice.
Yeah.
But no one has seen her up until Ellie happens to come upon her.
Well, they always talk about the Guthrie's property being like haunted or something, because they hear shrieks and screams, and it's probably her. Yeah,
it's probably Alice, but they the local
legend
is
it's a ghost
or
something. Yeah. And so, Ellie was like, I'm gonna go check it out.
Well, she also, sees something happening to somebody when she's riding. She hears the screams, and then she sees someone being, dragged into the shed, I think.
That's when you see Alice's stepfather.
Putting her back in.
Putting
basically.
her into the shed.
And so she hides in the hay and waits for him to go, and then meets Alice. The initial interactions with Alice were weird. I didn't know that she was going to be deaf or what. I just assumed early on that she was just completely feral, that she knew nothing about the world, because it seemed like she did not even recognize that Ellie was talking to her. That she didn't recognize that there was another human being there, and it was either that she was deaf or that she just didn't understand language at all. That she was so isolated from the world that she didn't know what words were.
Yeah.
And couldn't understand any single
like
thing that
Nell or something.
Possibly. And so I had no idea what the situation was. And I think that kind of hurt the movie a little bit, because the progression is... It's steady, but it's weird that it exists at all. Like, why were those opening scenes such that it didn't seem like she was even acknowledging the fact that there was another person in the room? Ellie was like, waving her hands or like tapping, like she was like trying to talk to her, and it's not like she was behind Alice the whole time saying words, and that's why she couldn't hear.
Yeah.
She was in front saying, hey,
she was probably,
hi,
she's only seen...
Are you okay? Like, what's your name?
At this point, she's only seen her mom and her stepdad. She's never seen, like, another human being around her, maybe? And she's like, who is this? And I don't know.
But she doesn't even lift her head up to say, "Oh, hi, I see you," type of a thing, or "Oh, you shouldn't be here." There's nothing. It's just like she was just like head down, doing whatever she was doing, playing with Lalo, maybe, I don't remember, the possum.
Yeah.
But then, like, a couple of days later, when she's starting to talk, and she like has more words every single time that she sees her. I don't know, it just seemed a little weird that the first interactions were so silent compared to other scenes. Patricia Arquette's performance.
I mean, this is a time where
a tough one.
Yeah, I don't. This is like Leo DiCaprio playing
Gilbert Grape.
Like, yeah, I forgot his name in Gilbert Grape. Yeah. It's like that type of performance. But I mean, I know he was nominated for that. I mean, this is a TV movie.
This is a TV movie.
So it's like the early 90s, and they had...
It's over the top.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really difficult thing because the character is not supposed to know a whole lot. And she's supposed to be partially deaf. And she has these seizures. So part of it is, the fact that the dialogue has to be written in such a way that she just doesn't know what certain things are. And then when you're partially deaf and you're trying to put on that accent, I guess for lack of a better word, of someone who's hard of hearing.
Yeah, this is like the problematic part.
It makes for an unintentionally humorous situation. Far too many. I
just feel like this is stuff that they show to middle schoolers. Like, this is a type of movie, or even the book, that you give to, like, middle schoolers or early high school to be like, this is a tale of, like, acceptance of all people.
Yeah. I can see that.
So you don't make fun of them, because this is exactly, like, I feel like what this movie is trying to portray. Like, she's never been... No one taught her how to read or write because her parents just, like, threw her in this barn or whatever.
Yeah, or how to do anything social.
Yeah, so it's not her fault that she's like this.
Exactly. And there's only really one scene where the local kids, like, make fun of her after she's allowed to basically be out of the shed and live with Ellie's family.
Yeah, but they even... Yeah.
And there's because, just, the one scene where
they're making fun of the way she talks, and they're like... And then even she's, like, learning... She has to start from the beginning. She's learning at this, like, kindergarten level about, like, the ABCs, basically, and then how to write and read. I mean, and that's what they teach her in the beginning, to memorize, sort of. Mm-hmm. But then they want to... Like, I kind of didn't get this part. It's like they were teaching her how to memorize, like, a poem.
Yeah.
And then they're, like, gonna impress their grandmother, Ellie and Sammy, to be like, hey, we found this girl and she recognized and memorized this poem. Can you teach her now? Or tutor her now? Because she knows how to do this, so can you also show her how to read and write?
Yeah, that whole sequence was very strange. They spend a lot of time teaching her this poem.
Yeah.
And the reason why, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess, like, that was the only reason... That was the only way to have the grandmother tutor her?
Yeah, but I was like, why does she have to...
Why not just have them talk to each other? Why not just introduce them and say, hey, this kid has been sheltered her entire life. Yeah,
and she obviously doesn't know how to read or write.
It's like she's not dumb. She's clearly not dumb.
She needs someone to teach her, like, English skills. I don't want to say that, but...
But yes, English skills. Like, she does not know grammar.
Yeah.
She says stuff like, what book? Like, what
yeah, but
love?
She knows how to... She knows
words, but she doesn't know sentence structure.
Yeah.
Like, verbs and adverbs and all that kind of stuff.
Because she probably was taught how to sort of speak from her mom and stepdad, because they would speak to her. So, I mean, so whatever she learned from speaking is through her parents, but that's about it.
Yeah, definitely did not pick up a whole lot, and mostly because she was nearly deaf.
Yeah, and she didn't know what books were either until, Sammy comes by and she's like, what is this? And that's when he started to read to her. And
it could very well be that she didn't know things about books and whatnot because maybe her parents also don't read. It's highly possible.
I mean, Sammy and Ellie, their own father doesn't know how to read either.
Yeah, exactly. So
they are like the generation of... They're like the first generation of like going to school and getting an education. Yeah, like that was very important. It seemed like for Jack Purton's, for his kids to go to school, but his mom, I don't know if their grandma was his mom or their mom's mom.
I think it's the mom's mom because she has a different last name.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I wrote it.
Bessie Morgan.
Yeah, Bessie Morgan.
Okay, so
that probably was the mom.
They all live together, and they seem like they're like a well-to-do family because they live in this big house.
It's easier to have a bigger house back then too, especially if you're in a smaller town and you have farmland and whatnot. You can build your own house in some cases back in the day. So who knows? But they're doing a little bit better, but not good enough to send Sammy to college without the scholarship.
Yeah, I mean,
so they're not that well to do, but they're getting.
I guess
by.
For that town, they're
and probably better than the Guthries, which would be
right.
Alice's family. So yeah, it's a very difficult performance, and I don't know. I think that Patricia Arquette did okay with it, but I think she just went too over the top and kind of accentuated the lack of knowledge. I don't want to say the stupidity because Alice isn't stupid. She just lacks knowledge in this, and so she like really plays that up a bit too much. She plays
like, even Sammy was saying like she's like a baby.
Yeah. Which made the romantic part of that movie a little bit worse.
Well, because he said that, it's like as if you're teaching a baby. She knows how to walk and talk. It's not like she's, I don't know.
But yes, she does act like a toddler.
She acts like a toddler. Yeah, because no one taught her anything. And, it's like Ellie and Sammy are the only people that she knows. And they're really nice to her. And they really want to help her. And they do what they can, and they're like, well, our grandmother is like a tutor. We can, tutor her, and then to the point where they're like, she can live with us.
Yeah, it kind of progresses from that. So the granny says that she will tutor Alice if she gets written permission from the parents. And Ormond doesn't even know that her daughter... or that his daughter or daughter-in-law has been stepdaughter.
Yeah, has been out. But the
mom the shed, but the mom knows.
The mom is like, I'm glad she has friends.
Yeah.
Like the mom's fine with it.
To a degree, but she also is worried because if Alice gets caught out and about, then it's also going to come back
to her husband.
Yeah, it's going to also not only hurt Alice, but also hurt her physically because Ormond is so commandeering.
Yeah.
So...
And everyone knows... I guess he's just like the town asshole because everyone knows how he is. Even like their father, Beau Bridges, Jack Perkins, was like, don't even go over there. Don't bother with that guy. It's like he's just... Ormond is known as like the town asshole, I guess.
Yeah.
No one likes him, so that's why no one interacts with that family.
Yeah. And that also helps keep Alice hidden if nobody goes over there to visit and it's not friendly or whatever. But yeah, so they start with the needing written permission from the parents, and then that happens after, various different circumstances, and then the next step is, well, you should be living with us, get away from the shed, you should live in an actual room, It turns out that Sammy will be going to college. He does get the scholarship, and the dad has a change of heart, and so everything is going to happen there. So you can live in Sammy's room now. And so they teach her how to, beg.
The mom, Ellie
beg
teaches
the mom to get permission
Alice
to
how
live
to
in
beg
their house. And the only reason that really happens is there's another scene of violence that's off camera, where Ormond is physically abusing both the girls. I don't remember exactly what the reason was, if they said even. And Alice runs over to the Perkins' house saying that her dad is dead. But he's not actually dead. He just had some sort of accident while abusing them and temporarily paralyzed himself, in his legs.
Yeah, he can't walk.
So he fell and hit his head or hit some part of his body or something. Again, it's all off screen. And so he is basically temporarily paralyzed. He's stuck and confined into a room. And so that's when the mom gets enough courage to basically say, yes, you go. You can go now.
Yeah. I mean, she has the change of heart saying, she starts to see that, their living situation with Alice is not great. And this other family, the Perkinses, they're being nice enough to take her in to, educate her and, show her how to be. Alice says, I want to be a, quote, real girl. And then her mom was just like, if you want her, you can take her now.
Yeah, and it's a difficult position for the mother, and I think that she plays it well.
Yeah.
Susan Blakely is Ada Guthrie. I think she plays it really well because it's a complicated thing, and I don't think she never understood that her situation was bad. It's just that what other options does she have in this small town? With an abuse, a lot of people who are in abusive situations. How can I get out of this? There's no way.
She's that's what she said. Ormond was the only man to take a single woman and her child. What man is going to take a woman who already has a child already?
And there's also a lot of fear of giving her over 40s. to the Perkins.
Yeah.
In that, okay, now I'm also losing my daughter to another family?
Yeah, because her daughter is, her only...
That's all she has left.
Family, yeah. And she's like, you're going to take my... But, I mean, she does see how this other family is caring for her the way that she should have been cared for since her birth.
And so I think, a lot of these characters have this type of progression. They have an arc. And I think that they're all done pretty well. You have Jack, who has this change of heart, who's basically this blowhard at the beginning. He's like, no son of mine is going to take handouts, you can't do anything, blah, blah, blah. And then he becomes more and more open and loving and comes back to life, in a sense, as time goes on. Mm-hmm. You have Ada Guthrie, who has, this change of heart and has this progression of these kids better not mess with my daughter. It's okay, well, at least they have friends, but you're not going to take her away. But yeah, this is what's best for her, so okay, I understand. And then obviously Alice goes through a huge progression as well, especially when she gets her hearing aid, which we haven't talked about, but basically there's this whole thing about
there's
the mother's locket getting pawned to pay for a hearing aid.
Me.
Go for it.
Okay, so they find out that Alice is deaf because she has an episode in a cornfield or something.
Epileptic episode.
Epileptic episode. And Sammy finds her that way, and they're both confused, so they call that Dr. Murphy over, and he's like, oh, she has epilepsy, but she's also deaf. And they didn't know that I think they sort of knew she was...
they knew that she was hard of hearing, because Ellie was like, does that have, is there epilepsy connected to her hard of hearing?
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
And the doctor's like, no, they're completely unrelated.
Okay, yeah, because in the beginning when they're talking to her, they kind of shout at her, because they're like, she can't...
talk loud, because she can't hear too good.
Because she can't hear, yeah. So she can sort of read mouths, but then you have to shout at her while, she's reading mouths. And he was like... I can help her with getting a hearing aid, but they're very expensive. And that's when, I mean, from the beginning of this movie, you know, you see Ellie, she's very much a tomgirl or tomboy. And, you know, her father and, like, her grandmother are like, when are you going to wear a dress type of thing? Like, your dress would look good with this locket that your mother had. And then it was she was, in her mind, she's like, I'm going to beg my father for this locket. Because I guess she was going to get this locket when she was older at some point.
Yeah, it's like a family
heirloom. Yeah. And she's like, no, I kind of want it now. And he's like, why? And she's like, you know, I just want my mother near me. And she eventually gets the locket, gives it to the doctor, and she's like, this can pay for the hearing aids. And he's like, well, like, I don't know anyone to get the money for this, but she's like, oh, please, whatever. She's always just, like, kind of begging, and he's like, oh, well, I guess I'll find someone to get the money. So she gives him the locket, and they get the hearing aid, but then later on in the movie, she has a locket.
The doctor gives it back to her, because he says, I saw the abuse that child went through.
And then so he pays it.
Yes.
Okay.
He paid for it himself by charging other people more. He said, well, I just charge Mr. and Mrs. whatever more because they can afford it.
So he was he's a nicer guy.
Yeah. Like, he knew that the locket was
a family heirloom.
Yeah, it was clear.
Okay, because I was like, wait a second, she's the locket again. Okay.
Yeah, he kept it and gave it back to her.
Okay. So, yeah, she gets this hearing aid, and, you know, Alice is like, oh, my God, I can hear now, and and then, you know, all these, everything changes. She's like, hands make noise. When they're laughing, she's like, your mouths are making noises.
Smiles make noise.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's...
And then, you know, listening to music. She's like, what is it? You know, everything.
Yeah. I thought that was going to be near the end of the movie, honestly. Like, when she gets to live with them and, you know, has the hearing aid.
Yeah, but there's a whole other story.
But, man, there's, like, this whole other segment, and it starts to trail off for me there. Slightly before that, though, there's, you know, they also wedge in this love story between Sammy and Alice, which I didn't really like all that much. I mean, I understand it to a degree. You know, they have this...
I understand her part, because this is the only boy she knows.
Yeah. And he's an attractive guy, right?
Yeah. So I would see how she would start to get a crush on him, especially because he's, like, being super nice and, like, whatever.
Right.
And, yeah, she doesn't know any other people besides Ellie and Sammy and her family now. I mean, it's like once she starts to read and write more, like she's out in society, it's like, oh, that's where I was also a little, like, confused. It's like, oh, we can bring her out to society now because she knows how to read and write. Because Ellie introduces her to, like, her friends from school, but it's like, is she going to the same school now, or is she still being just taught by the grandma?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, yeah, once she starts to live with the Perkins, then it's okay to...
That's why I was like, oh, now she get... But then people are like, oh, you're so nice to do this for her. I would never do it, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Sammy's other love interest says. What's her name?
Bertha.
Where, you know, bid 50 cents for the church record for the box lunch bidding. It was like a...
Yeah.
You know,
that's
a date auction type of a thing.
That's when I realized I saw this movie, because my friend and I used to make fun of that part for some reason.
Like 50 cents.
We would bid like 35 cents on something. I don't know.
So that was a interesting scene, I guess. But yeah, Bertha is, you know, the other major love interest is Sammy, but he's not as interested in her over time as he is in Alice.
With Alice, yeah.
And there's the scene where Alice is bathing and has no concept of shame because she just doesn't know any of this stuff, and so she's bathing naked, and he comes across her, and he's, you know...
Yeah, he sees her, and he's like, "Oh, you shouldn't."
He's all flustered,
and
like
this.
You know, let me give you my shirt because I'm not supposed to see you like this or whatever, and has all this kind of thing, and then it leads to them like making out, and just kind of seemed
and then he
wrong
leaves.
to me.
Yeah.
It's
I don't.
It felt like regarding Henry, you know.
Yeah.
It's like again, she's an adult. She's not.
But
she's not mentally handicapped, but she's just like mentally unaware of things.
Yeah, she doesn't. Yeah, because she doesn't even know what love is. Like he had to explain like love is a feeling, but then when he's reading to her, she's like, "I'm feeling that feeling. I think I'm in love."
Right.
And that's when he's like, she's like, but he sort of feels that feeling too, because in the beginning he's like, she's very pretty, she has the most beautiful eyes. That's all he says.
Yep.
Like, she has the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen on all the girls in this town or whatever. And so he's like physically attracted to her, but he's like, I can't do this to her because that's what he said. She's like a baby.
Yeah. He feels guilty about it, and like
that's when he was like, "I'm gonna go to college."
and when she's learning to read and write, she writes him a letter at college. He does not respond to it at all, and it becomes like this whole thing. It's like, well, why don't you write me back? Why are you ignoring me?
I think he's just like and also feeling guilty. Very guilty. Yeah,
he's just guilty about the whole situation. But everything comes together at the end. Basically, it's you have the Founders Day dance, and Ellie uses manipulation tactics to get Sammy to come away from college back to the dance.
Yeah, there's a whole I guess
it's like a montage.
Yeah, a montage of just Ellie and Sammy writing to each other, because I guess Ellie sees that Sammy and Alice love each other. Like, she sees that love.
Right.
And yeah, there's a whole 15-minute thing of Ellie and Sammy writing back to each other, and then Ellie just saying all these things about Alice. Like, Alice is wearing like a low-cut blouse and her bosoms are showing, something like that. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just to entice him.
Entice him to come.
Yeah. Talking about the person who's taking him to the dance, I think.
Yeah, and then she's going to a dance with another boy.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you're really
trying to make
him
jealous.
For this, and But yeah, he makes it there at some point, and before that, there's this whole scene with Ormond at the dance.
That scene was like also like, I guess, I mean, I know this is from a book, and I'm like, that was probably a longer scene in the book because it happened in like 5 minutes, this whole interaction.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know what even happened. It was like the mom is kind of just like watching and seeing her daughter develop into like this woman now from afar. Mm-hmm. And you see her mom like in the hidden in the trees, just being like, oh, my daughter is like beautiful and look at her come so far type of thing. And but then like all of a sudden Ormond is like did he follow her or something?
Probably.
The mom?
Yeah, Ormond, who we thought was still bedridden,
like all of a sudden can walk,
is able to move around enough to follow and get to the dance too. And
there's like a point where Alice is just like by herself, like on a, I don't know, like pier or something. It's like something at the edge.
Some sort of like dock in like this watermill area where this dance is being held. It's an interesting setting visually, but very confusing to know what's actually what.
Because she's just like looking over the water, and her mom is just like, oh, look at my daughter, but and all of a sudden Ormond comes behind Alice and like takes her.
Yeah, it becomes like a thriller movie for a couple minutes.
For 2 minutes, though. And then the whole town, like, you hear Alice screaming, like, no, leave me alone, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when the dance stops, and the entire town is like, huh? Like, they see them all.
Because he takes her into like some basement area of this watermill, and everybody's like looking at, they just, they gather up on the stairs and just kind of like.
But they're all just like.
Hover around.
Like in horror of what's happening. But
Jack
no one's really helping.
Well, Jack eventually just speaks up, is like, hey, you leave her alone. She belongs to us now. And I'm honestly surprised, I guess, to a degree, that Ormond
just stops
and walks away. And
I thought there was gonna be more of an like he was gonna hurt. I thought someone was gonna get hurt. Like he was gonna pull out a gun and shoot someone or kill someone.
Because we've already seen Ormond with the gun.
Yeah. So I was like, someone's gonna get hurt. But then the whole town's like, hey, leave her alone. He's like, oh, all right, I'll walk away. And then that was it.
That was it.
But I'm assuming something else happened in the book.
Possibly. Yeah, and then
they
Sammy
just couldn't
comes
show
in
it.
and then they dance and kiss and credits.
Yeah.
So it's a very quick resolution, but I don't know. It's the other thing I'll say about this movie that kind of confused me is before the whole moving in with the Perkins thing, Alice is just all of a sudden out and about, wandering around like all the time. Well, she's never been seen by society, but then like she's just out and about, and they have to. There's that scene on the bridge where Sammy has to like create a diversion. He's like, "Hey, let's see who can spit the furthest."
Well, because they don't
and
want.
He's like, "Okay, I gotta go now."
They're trying to protect her because they don't want to see her like this feral.
Yeah, girl. But like, how is she getting out so frequently?
Because it's like they taught her how to.
Did they teach her how?
Remember?
No, I missed it.
There was a point where Sammy is like, you use this stick to raise up the barrier, and this is how you get out.
Okay, I completely missed that.
Oh. So he's like...
You missed the locket, I missed the stick.
Okay, I missed... well, so this is earlier in the movie. He's like, so if you ever want to come out, you use this stick and it lifts open, the barrier.
Yeah.
And it's like an easy thing. It's not like she's locked in with a key. They just put this little...
They just put a board on it.
Board on it. He's like, this lifts up the board and you push. And then they show her how, and he's like, okay, you do it. And she does it. And he's like, oh, and she's all excited about it.
I wonder how I missed all of that.
So that's how she's been able to like come out. And they're like, oh, but you got to keep this quiet and a secret. And she's like, okay, secret. It's like she knew it was, a secret.
And she was not very, she's just wandering all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about cast and crew, and then we'll get into the awards, because there are a couple of awards for this one. Diane Keaton, like we mentioned, as a director, she has done a couple other things. She's directed Belinda Carlisle's music videos, I Get Weak and Heaven is a Place on Earth. She's done episodes of Twin Peaks and China Beach, which I had no idea that she did an episode of Twin Peaks, but she did. She also directed an episode of CBS School Break Special, the movies Unstrung Heroes, and also Hanging Up. As an actor, of course, we know that she's an Oscar winner for Annie Hall, nominated for Reds, Marvin's Room, and Something's Gotta Give as well. Emmy nominated for the Amelia Earhart movie, The Final Flight. Razzie nominated for Because I Said So. And she's been in a whole bunch of other movies, and we'll see her again in the 1991 movie Father of the Bride. I already talked about Sara Flanigan, the writer here. Moving on to Beau Bridges, Jack Perkins. Emmy winner for Without Warning, The James Brady Story, which is from 1991, so that's on our list. Also won the Golden Globe and the Cable Ace Award for that role. Also an Emmy winner for Positively True Adventures of the Alleged Texas Cheerleader Murdering Mom. It's like a TV movie from like 1993 that I don't think I've ever heard of. Also won the Golden Globe for that as well. And also won the Emmy for Second Civil War. And nominated many other times as a guest performance or in miniseries and TV movies. He's known as part of The Wizard to me. He plays kind of a similar character in a way. This father figure who doesn't want their child to do this thing and then has a change of heart and learns to love and whatnot. He's also known for the Fabulous Baker Boys, The Agency, Stargate SG-1, alongside many other things. He also has a Grammy win for the Best Spoken Word album, Inconvenient Truth. He shares that with a few other people who were part of that album. Susan Blakely, who played Ada Guthrie, is a Golden Globe winner and an Emmy-nominated actress for Rich Man, Poor Man, which is a TV miniseries back in the day. Also nominated for Will There Really Be a Morning? And Emmy-nominated for Rich Man, Poor Man Book 2, where she had a small returning performance in that. We'll see her a couple more times in the 1991 movies Blackmail and The Sea Will Tell. And she's also in Towering Inferno. That's one of her other major roles. William McNamara as Sammy Perkins is probably best known for things like Radio Inside or Chasers. He's also been in Dream a Little Dream, and he got his start doing Dario Argento movie Opera. He's also in the movie Copycat. He was nominated for a Cable Ace Award for this movie, for Best Actor in a mini TV movie, but he lost to Jon Voight. Reese Witherspoon as Ellie Perkins. We'll see her once more in The Man in the Moon, which I think was her debut. This one actually, because it came out in December, I think would be considered her second credit ever. Oscar and Golden Globe winner for Walk the Line. Oscar nominated for Wild. Emmy winner for Big Little Lies as a producer, nominated for the acting performance there, and also nominated for Little Fires Everywhere as a producer. Golden Globe nominations for Election, Legally Blonde, The Morning Show, and Big Little Lies. And MTV Movie Award winner for Legally Blonde, Best Comedic Performance, and also Best Line, which I did not write down what the line was. And she's also an MTV Generation Award winner, so basically their Lifetime Achievement Award. Patricia Arquette, Oscar and Golden Globe and Spirit winner for Boyhood, Emmy winner for Medium and The Act, nominated for Medium. Escape at Dannemora is also another nomination for MTV. Nominations for Best Kiss for True Romance.
Okay.
I think her debut was on Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Children. Yeah. And we'll see her a couple more times in the 1991 movies Dillinger and The Indian Runner. Last thing I'll mention really quickly is a person named Mary Page Keller as the church girl. I don't know who that is, to be honest with you, because there are certain friends, and I looked at her picture, and it did not seem like she matched anybody that I saw in the movie, but Mary Page Keller is supposedly in there. The only reason I mention it is that she's also the star of Baby Talk, the TV sitcom, TJF sitcom that we've talked about a few times. So she plays Maggie Campbell in Baby Talk, and she was apparently in this movie. So, on to awards. At the Cable Ace Awards, that's really where everything is going to be coming into play here. It was the winner of Best Actress in a Movie or Miniseries, Patricia Arquette. She did win the award. I don't know if I would have agreed with that personally, but
I would give that to Reese Witherspoon.
yeah. In general, the acting is very strong in this.
Yeah, they're all good. It's just playing. This is what I said before. Just playing someone with a disability, back then.
There's some nuance that is kind of missing for me.
Yeah.
We already mentioned William McNamara was nominated as Best Actor, but lost to Jon Voight. Best Writing nomination for Sara Flanigan. Lost to a movie called Citizen Cone, which is actually from 1992. This award show is in 1993. It kind of combined late 1991 and early 1992 stuff. And it also won the Humanitas Prize, which is in the PBS cable category. So, well respected at the time, I guess, and good enough to get released on home video, unlike a lot of network TV movies of the era. So on to true crime and pop culture.
Yeah, I don't have any crimes this time, but this movie was released December 3rd, 1991, which was a Tuesday. And something that happened on this day, pro wrestling wise, which I don't know anything about.
No, not much.
But, this involves Hulk Hogan. So Hulk Hogan defeated The Undertaker at, quote, this Tuesday in Texas at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas, to become a 4-time WWF champion. And
one of the early appearances of The Undertaker we learned from Suburban Commando episode.
Both in Suburban Commando.
Yeah.
So I looked up what this Tuesday in Texas was. It's just it was a pay-per-view event that was on a Tuesday, because apparently this is one of the first times pay-per-view events were on Tuesdays. I guess Mondays was the pay-per-view night for fights or WWF
Okay.
I have no idea. I looked it up and I was like, okay.
I've never been interested in ever paying for any pay-per-views.
Yeah, I don't think I think the only thing I paid for was to watch the 1994 Woodstock.
Oh, okay.
And that was like I asked my mom for that. I think that was like my 8th grade graduation gift to me. Was I really want to watch.
Yeah, just like non-stop festival.
And then I had so many blank VHS tapes because I just pressed record and I was like, because it was like 24 hours a day or something. So I just press record and like go to sleep and then wake up and like watch it.
Nice.
And I think I still have the tapes somewhere. I don't know. That was the only thing I ever paid. Well, I didn't even pay for it. I asked my mom for it. And then, TV-wise, on Tuesdays, there was... this is, like, confusing to me. So on ABC, there was Full House. But this was a new episode. And I was like, what are they doing? Because I thought Full House was a TGIF thing. Now it's on a Tuesday in December?
I don't know. Like, December 3rd, so that might have been shortly after Thanksgiving. Is that maybe a thing? They didn't want to do a Friday episode after Thanksgiving. So they did a Tuesday,
but it was a new episode. It wasn't like a repeat or anything.
Yeah.
So Full House was on. It was Full House, Home Improvement, Roseanne, Coach, and then this show called Homefront. And it starred Kyle Chandler. Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
From Friday Night Lights mostly. He's done other stuff, but that's what he's known for. So this is a nostalgia-drenched nighttime soap opera about Lieutenant Hank Metcalf, who is Kyle Chandler. He returns from World War II to... this is a fictional town in Ohio called River Run, Ohio, eager to marry his girlfriend Sarah. What Hank doesn't know is that while he was away, Sarah had fallen in love with his brother Jeff. Hank's mother Anne and his sister Linda face problems of their own since their wartime factory jobs have been given to the returning soldiers. Hank's buddy Charlie, meanwhile, returns home with a British war bride, Caroline, breaking the heart of his childhood sweetheart, Ginger. So there's all kinds of drama.
Sounds like a lot of nostalgia mixed in with that soap opera.
Yeah, and that was 2 seasons.
Huh.
I've never even heard of it.
No. Sounds like a lot going on.
Yeah. On CBS, there was a Rescue 911. I feel like that's just on every day on CBS at like 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And on NBC was another episode of In the Heat of the Night. We've spoken about that before. After that was this miniseries called Pearl, which was a re-release of a 1978 miniseries, and it's about the early events of the attack of Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
It originally aired November in 1978, but I guess they re-aired it in 1991. And it has some 1991 actors that we talked about, like Leslie Ann Warren, Robert Wagner was in it, and Brian Dennehy.
Okay.
And on here it says that this was the top 10 most watched primetime show of that time. I don't know what is now, but it said the series had over 80 million viewers, I guess, from the first...
In 1970s?
In the 70s and then in the 90s.
Okay, like combined.
Like combined, yeah. I don't know if they showed it again.
I don't recall that either.
Me neither. I wasn't watching any, but I mean, on that night, it was a 3-part thing. So this was part 1, and part 1 had 13 million viewers. So everyone's watching this. Not everyone, but just a lot of people. And on to music. So as of December 7th, 1991, we're at the end of the year. I'm going to do the bottom 5 because the top song at that time was, Michael Jackson.
Sure.
That was like right at the release of Black or White. And when I saw these bottom 5, I was like, I don't know any of them until I listened to at least, there's 2 of the 5 that I know now.
Okay.
But when I first looked at this, I was like, I don't know. Is this the first time I don't know any of these songs? But number 100 is a song called Hey Donna by the Rhythm Syndicate. That was just like a dance song, I guess. Sure. A clubby dance song. And that was on the charts for 14 weeks, and it peaked at number 13. Number 99 was a song called Stand By Your Woman by Stand By My Woman by Lenny Kravitz. I've never heard this song until like an hour ago.
Yeah, when you were playing snippets, that did not sound.
And I actually like this. I was like, oh, this is a good song.
Yeah, I thought the other one was okay too. The Hey Donna.
The Hey Donna, yeah. And this Lenny Kravitz song was 8 weeks on the charts, and it peaked at number 76. This other at number 98 is a song called My Heart Belongs to You by Russ Irwin, and it's like a typical like rock ballad love song. Mm-hmm. And I looked this guy up, and I guess this is his only song that went on the charts, and he only had one album, and it was in 1991. But he wrote a lot of songs for like Aerosmith and Scorpions and stuff, and bands like that. Okay. So this was just like his only.
Yeah, he tried to go on this.
Self-made stuff, and he only had this one hit. That was 13 weeks on the charts, and it peaked at number 28. Number 97, this was their first time on the charts, was a song called In Paradise by Laissez-Faire. When I was listening to this, I was like, oh, I know this song. This is, it's just like another freestyle. I call this roller skating music because this is the type of music that I would have heard when I was roller skating when I was middle school into high school. It's just a typical clubby freestyle song that I like. Number 96 is another roller skating song, which I didn't even know what it was until I listened to it too. This number 96 is Then Came You by TPE. That was only 2 weeks on the chart.
On to rankings and ratings. On your 1 to 5 star scale, where are you going to put Wildflower?
I'm going to give this movie a 3.
So, yeah, basically like in the middle there.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my 0 to 4 star scale, I'm going to say it's probably... I'm going to say it's a 3 as well. Like, it was surprisingly good. Again, I think it's one of those ones that could have been a theatrical movie and nobody would have batted an eye. It's interesting that it was on Lifetime of all things, which really was. This is before Lifetime movies were what they are now. You know, like now if you say Lifetime movies, you think, oh, it's churn and it's like. Stupid.
Yeah, you think of like those Christmas movies that all have like similar storylines.
Or all those stupid horror, fake suspense movies. Of,
like
my
Snapped.
Babysitter killed my husband.
Yeah,
type of
or the
thing.
wrong real estate agent.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I don't think Lifetime movies were a thing at this time.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, it's interesting that it was there as opposed to even like network TV or theatrically, because it could have fit there.
Yeah, this could have. I mean, like I said before, it reminds me so much of Man in the Moon, and I'm just wondering why it wasn't released like around that time. Maybe because there's similar stories, or I have no idea why they put it on the Lifetime channel, but I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, whatever whatever the reason, it made it out to the general public as well. Like I said, it is on VHS and DVD. So, but yeah, I'm gonna say it's a 3 stars. It's solid. Every movie is worth watching once. Would you watch this again?
Yeah, I'll watch it. It's a... I don't want to say it's a feel-good movie.
It's not.
It's not. I want to say it's kind of like along the lines of like maybe watching like Fried Green Tomatoes. Like it's very hard. Like it's the subject line is very rough, but it's like got this good like happy ending.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's about humanity.
Yeah, it's about acceptance and love, and that's what it's trying to teach you, I guess.
Yeah, I think between this and Fried Green Tomatoes easily wins out.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I might watch it again. I don't know. I probably, realistically, in the real world, probably no. I mean, but I mean, I wouldn't turn it down. Yeah, I guess
if it was
someone
like
offered
on again, I'll watch it. This is like a movie. I mean, I don't really do that anymore, but like if I'm switching channels and this was on, I'd be like, oh, I remember this movie, and I'll just keep it on for the remainder of whatever, like till the end, until it ends, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. If you out there want to watch Wildflower, as of this recording in April 2022, it's available on Tubi, Vudu, IMDb TV, digital rental, VHS, DVD. As always, check your local listings. You can listen to us on all of your major podcasting platforms. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends. You can email us at 1991movierewind@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, YouTube. Just search 1991 Movie Rewind, or go to 1991movierewind.com for the full list of movies along with show notes and more. Next week for Mother's Day, we're going to be watching the horror comedy Mom. That's going to be available on Tubi, digital rental, and VHS. We will see you then.